By Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Senator, I sent you a nice little Halloween video. I hope you enjoy it.
Hugh, it was, I guess, mildly amusing in the sense of, like, looking at you being a 7-year-old. I guess I didn't react in quite the same way that Dwayne did, though.
Dwayne, if you'd heard Dwayne, you'd be laughing as long as I've been laughing. Senator, I have Kevin Brady coming up, the chairman of House Ways and Means, at the top of the hour. And I'm going to urge him to adopt your view of how to raise revenue, because they keep giving away their revenue side by limiting the limits on the state and local income tax deduction. Would you explain to people how you would raise revenue in the tax bill that could otherwise be cut in other places?
Sure, Hugh. So my proposal is that on the tax bill, we should repeal the individual mandate in Obamacare. Now, many of my friends in the Senate and the House immediately sigh and say, oh, no, we can't do health care on the tax bill. We'll make the tax bill harder. Hugh, I think it's the exact opposite. By repealing the individual mandate, we make it easier to pass a tax bill. The Congressional Budget Office has said the individual mandate, which, remember, is the most unpopular part of Obamacare, saves $300 billion over 10 years. We have to offset all but $1.5 trillion in our tax cuts under the budget resolution we've adopted. It's much easier to use $3 billion from the most unpopular part of Obamacare than it is to try to repeal or limit popular, widespread deductions and other tax provisions.
Now, the only reason I can see that people would object to that is that they fear they don't have 50 votes in the Senate to repeal the individual mandate. But who's in favor of the individual mandate?
Both the House and the Senate at one time or another has voted to repeal the individual mandate as part of this or that legislative package. Remember, the individual mandate is the most unpopular part of Obamacare. More than 2/3 of all Americans favor repealing it. Hugh, it doesn't just help pay for tax relief for working families and businesses. It itself is a kind of tax relief, Hugh. Almost 7 million Americans paid the fine last year. That's up to $2,000. And over 5 out of 6 of those households that pay the fine are below the median income. So that is like putting $2,000 directly back into the pockets of working class and poor families all across this country. It also, Hugh, remember, although we work in this kind of smoke and mirrors 10-year budget period, the world continues after 10 years.
Yep.
The repealing the individual mandate continues to save money after that 10-year period, which means more of the tax bill can be made permanent.
Now, Senator Cotton, why does it save so much money? Repealing it. Why does it?
Well, in the logic of Obamacare, which is very kind of counterintuitive in many ways, if the IRS no longer fines people for failing to sign up for an Obamacare program, many of them will not sign up for it, and therefore they will not be paying the fine that's relatively small in the size of the federal budget, but they also won't be drawing on the subsidies. For the 10-year window, yes.
They're saving the subsidies. $300 billion over 10 years in subsidies is what's going out?
That's the most recent estimate, Hugh. It can change. The Congressional Budget Office changes their estimates of the value of this provision over time. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, based on the size and the average plans that are bought in the exchanges. But that's a ballpark figure. What I do know is that it would be one of the single biggest items that we can use to help provide more tax relief for working families and businesses, and to make that tax relief more permanent.
So have you had any chats with your former colleagues in the House about doing this in the framework of the Ways and Means proposal?
Very much so, Hugh. Not just the House, but in the Senate as well. I can tell you it's a creative idea. Not a lot of people had considered it. There was a strong resistance in terms of the conventional thinking in Congress to revisiting health care right now. And my position, though, as I said, is that this doesn't make a tax bill harder to pass. It makes a tax bill easier to pass, because it allows us to deliver tax relief without having to eliminate or to limit some of the most popular and widespread tax deductions and other tax provisions.
Getting rid of a mandate is never unpopular. Dumping a mandate is never unpopular.
No, and remember, Hugh, there's no way the Democrats can argue that this is somehow affecting, quote-unquote, health care. The Obama administration argued to the Supreme Court that the mandate is a tax. The Supreme Court held that the mandate is a tax. The IRS collects it. You pay it on your 1040. It is the most core tax provision of Obamacare, and it helps us deliver on our promises to provide tax relief for working families and businesses.
So have you got anyone, any single person step up and say good idea along with you yet, Tom Cotton?
I don't know if they've made a public commitment, Hugh, but pretty soon we're going to be putting cards on the table. I can tell you lots and lots of congressmen and senators, once they understand the logic, because, again, it's a somewhat creative and even counterintuitive idea, realize just how good the idea is, realize that it makes the tax bill easier to pass, not harder to pass, which is still the conventional thinking in Congress.
It is a terrific idea because it is both a little bit of the repeal that we need of Obamacare, but it's a lot of tax relief that allows Kevin Brady, who's coming up next, to write a bigger, better tax cut bill. I'll be right back, America. Thank you, Tom Cotton, with Kevin Brady.